Welcome to Agile Acquisition 101, where we will be taking a high-level look at Agile acquisition. We'll be covering some key fundamentals such as providing a solid definition for Agile acquisition, and then we will be comparing what is considered to be a traditional acquisition approach with an Agile acquisition approach. This comparison will help us identify some key fundamental differences between the two acquisition approaches. Congress, in Section 874 of the 2018 National Defense Authorization Act, provided a solid definition for Agile acquisition. From this definition, I want to focus on two key areas. First, the incremental development and fielding of capabilities, commonly called spirals, spins, or sprints. And second, the continuous participation and collaboration by users, testers, and requirements authorities. The first piece of the definition means we need to deliver value, and the second part tells us we need continuous feedback from essentially all the stakeholders. So putting these two pieces together, for Agile acquisition, we need to deliver value through continuous feedback. And this process is iterative and incremental. We deliver value and then gain and assess the feedback so we can adjust our strategy for when we deliver the next increment of value. Now let's take a look at what we consider the traditional acquisition approach. This approach starts with user needs or requirements and ends with delivering those requirements to the end user. However, we start a traditional acquisition with a detailed plan. In fact, according to the Defense Science Board report published in February of 2018, the average development program develops schedules for 5 years, but the initial development actually takes closer to 7 years. These plans usually follow a phased approach that typically starts with requirements analysis, and at the end of each phase, the success is measured by its conformance to the initial plan or schedule. This is true for all subsequent phases that typically include things like design, development, test, and then finally deployment. At the end of this long life cycle, we deliver the requirements in one large deployment. However, in the traditional approach, success is largely measured by conformance to a plan that was created several years earlier. The traditional acquisition approach has been used for decades, so all of the required supporting elements, such as contracting, the metrics we use to track progress, how we fund the acquisition, and the overall acquisition culture are structured to support this approach. Now, let's take a look at Agile acquisitions. Similar to the traditional approach, in an Agile acquisition approach, we start with the user requirements or user needs, and end with the goal of delivering those requirements to the end user. However, we start the Agile acquisition process differently. In Agile acquisition, we start with a high-level plan that allows for frequent modifications based on collaboration and user feedback. In Agile acquisitions, we strive to get the minimum viable product, or MVP, into the hands of the users as soon as possible. To do this, we set up a continuous delivery pipeline that enables frequent and continuous deliveries. Inside this continuous delivery pipeline, we also use iterative and incremental methods, where we bring in the user or a user proxy and continually develop working software throughout the development process. This piece of Agile acquisition is referred to as Agile development. Under this large development umbrella, there are various frameworks and methods, such as Scrum, XP, and feature-driven development, just to name a few. Our primary goal is to rapidly deliver value to the users in the operational environment. Keep in mind that your operational environment could be servers, an aircraft, a ship, or a tank, but the overall objective is to get the capability fielded in the operational environment as soon as possible. You will notice there's a gap between the development and the fielding of capability, or value, meaning there's a lag from when development is finished and the product was delivered into operations. This is where DevOps assists with increasing the deployment frequency in order to speed up the continuous delivery pipeline. Moving back out to the larger acquisition, with each increment we are continuously receiving feedback. We use this feedback to make adjustments for the next increment to ensure we are continually delivering value based on the current needs of the user. This complete process shouldn't seem new. In fact, all we're really doing is delivering value through continuous feedback. This complete process is referred to as Agile acquisition and contains the same elements as we saw in the traditional approach. An Agile acquisition approach still requires contracts, metrics to track progress, funding, and a culture that supports an Agile acquisition approach. What do we need to change if we want to go from a traditional acquisition approach to an Agile acquisition approach? The answer is almost everything. We need to restructure our contracting approach, develop the appropriate metrics to track the progress and success of the program, alter how we fund the acquisition, and change the overall culture. Remember, we're completely redefining success. We're moving from the primary measure of success being conformance to a plan to the primary measure of success being user satisfaction.